Hello and welcome to ILTV's Elections Arena. I'm Aaron Porras, and today we have a great show ahead of us. Benny Gantz tries to form a coalition, but first, for our guest today, please welcome Israeli attorney and legal advisor to the Israeli Movement for Governability and Democracy, or Meshilut, Simcha Rotman, and Colonel in the Reserves, Olivier Rafovitz, a senior military analyst and former Knesset candidate for Israel Beitenu. Now, thank you both very much for coming in, gentlemen. How are you? It was a good weekend, yeah?
Perfect.
It was nice.
Perfect. We have to be optimistic.
All right, well, I like that. So, to begin, in the evening hours on Sunday this week, Prime Minister Netanyahu and rival Benny Gantz of the Kachol Lavan party sat down in Tel Aviv to discuss the potential of forming a centrist unity government. And this is the first official meeting between the party heads since Gantz received the second mandate to form a coalition following Netanyahu's failure. But despite promising to sit down again in the near future, neither side reported any progress as Gantz pushes for a centrist unity government, while Netanyahu is sticking to his broad unity idea.
ואנחנו צריכים להחליט החלטות קשות שמחייבות ממשלה עם כתפיים רחבות. לכן החשיבות ביצירת ממשלת אחדות לאומית רחבה, זה לא שאלה פוליטית, זה שאלה לאומית, זה שאלה ביטחונית ראשונה במעלה. ואני מקווה שנוכל לקדם את היעד הזה בימים הקרובים.
So I'd actually like to start with you, Simcha. Do you believe that Netanyahu was serious when he was going into these coalition negotiations, or is he basically biding his time until Gantz fails in his second mandate?
I think that even if Gantz and Netanyahu will get to some understanding, and I think the chances for that are not so high, they will have to wait until Gantz loses the mandate, because as long as Gantz has the mandate, he has to be the prime minister. I don't believe Netanyahu is going to let him be the first prime minister. So unless Gantz returns the mandate to the president, Netanyahu won't be able to be the prime minister, regardless of the issue of the indictment and everything that connects to it. So basically everyone is now playing, using the time that Gantz has the mandate to have the negotiations, that after Gantz's failure, they will go and have 61 people in the Knesset to form a government. That's their only chance, I believe, to have government and not to go to another election. I think you already have the election arena ready.
Do you agree?
Listen, it's very difficult to try to decode this negotiation because a part is visible, another part is not visible, and we don't know everything. We know only a part of it because it's a negotiation process, which is actually, like in many sensitive issues, very secret in many parts. Concerning the output, the result of such negotiations, I won't believe that there will be, at the end of the day, a government.
You believe we're going to go back to third elections?
I don't think that we are going to a third round of election because the people in Israel don't want it. They don't want to go back. And at the end of the day, we are in a democracy. And even if there is some...
Well, then how is this coalition going to be formed and under whom? Because right now it doesn't seem like Gantz is getting anywhere.
The issue is not under whom. The issue is what kind of government will be. And today the big mistake is to talk about the person. And the issue is to talk about the issues, the agenda. And there is actually quite common views, common interest between Kachol Lavan, blue and white, between Israel Beitenu, between even the Likud party, actually not Netanyahu himself, but the Likud party. These three big parties, I mean the two big ones and the third one, Israel Beitenu, my party, are actually very, very, very close to main issues, security, economics, and the social issues. The issue is Netanyahu, right now still at the head of the Likud party, is really ready to go to, I would say, a strategic move. Now, I don't think so. But Likud is not only Netanyahu. Likud is 1 million people with ideas, with agendas. And in politics, there is something called change. and possibilities of change. So, and dynamics. So we have more days to see, more weeks to see. And Mr. Rivlin, the president himself, I think I heard you just before this meeting now in studio. I think that Mr. Rivlin has a real historical role to play. And I think we'll play it.
Well, so that's exactly it, though. Rivlin had his own proposal with respect to
which was rejected by Blue and White.
Well, and more recently, though, it was rejected again by Netanyahu in meetings between the Likud. Well, not by Netanyahu, but between the Likud and Blue and White. It was reported that the Likud rejected this time around.
The main thing that Netanyahu had to give up in this Rivlin's deal is the idea that he will go and he recuse himself of office if he will be indicted. That was the main thing he had to give up.
But it's widely reported that under Rivlin's plan, Netanyahu would avoid any sort of legal issues as interim prime minister, even when he wasn't serving as prime minister under the rotation agreement.
No, but that was the thing that the Likud and Netanyahu had to give up. They had to give up the idea that they will be in charge and the Netanyahu will stay prime minister even after an indictment. That was the thing that Rivlin asked the Likud to give up, and the Likud gave it. It was a big thing to give up. And what the people, I have to say, it's not about ideology. What we have here, it's about parties that say we don't want to sit with this guy, we don't want to sit with those guys, we don't want Smotrich, we don't want the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox, we don't want Netanyahu.
Isn't that a negotiation tactic?
No, it's not
needs
a
to be
negotiation
done?
tactics because that's what they ran for in the elections. That's what they said in the election. We don't want Netanyahu. They didn't say.
I don't think
they didn't say, "Oh, the ideology is a problem." As he said, I agree with him.
But even from
ideology-wise, Blue and White and the Likud are not so far away. The only thing is we don't want Netanyahu. So how can they give up on that? That ticket?
With that respect, yes. But we're also talking about the Arab parties, who many other parties on the right.
It's not on the right.
The left don't want to sit
on the
with.
left, no one. And the reason that it's
like
not
I said,
because
even
they're
on the left don't
Arabs.
want to sit with. Then you also have, the religious parties who many on the left don't want to sit with.
There is one thing that
that
it's not new in Israeli politics. Arab parties who declare themselves as not being Zionists, they are not sharing. There were even Arab ministers sitting in other parties. It's nothing against the Arabs, but the Arab parties, and I believe the people who made this claim loud and clear, Israel Beiteinu, his party, made this claim loud and clear that the parties that say we don't want Israel to be a Jewish state are out of the game. So that is
but
not.
In the same time, he's right. In the same time, we also don't want parties who refuse to send their boys to the army because many of them, not all of them, claim that they are not Zionist. So the issue is not to be Arab, because it's a very important issue. Some people could think that we are in some kind of strange society. It's not against the Arabs. It's not against anyone. It's against people who don't share the Zionist ideological base of the country. That's why we are very clear, and I want to repeat again here, very clear that we want a unity government with Zionist, strong Zionist, clear Zionist parties.
All members of Shas party served
hold
in the army.
Hold on.
It's not true.
Not all of them. But it's not the issue not to talk about this party or another party.
But they are the main problem. The main problem is the personal problem with Deri and Lieberman. Not anything about ideology.
The main problem when you go, and you are a lawyer, and I know that you are a bright lawyer, when you go to negotiation, you have to go with clean hands on the table. Now, when you go with the Likud party, and the Likud says, I'm not alone, I'm bringing with me other parties, why? Why they are obliged why they've been obliged from the very beginning to build such a bloc, because such a bloc is
well,
actually...
that's exactly my point, is that if this goes now to the third mandate, if GANTZ were to fail because this right-wing bloc refuses to break and because he can't get the seats from Lieberman, who refuses to sit in minority government.
For now, we just yesterday, as you know, started negotiation by a member of audit for people on team. So we are meeting them, we are sharing our goals, our issues, and we'll see.
So
It's
is
a
it
process.
possible that Israel Beitenu will say, you know what, forget what we said before, we're going to form a government with the first X amount of parties that can get us to 61? Is that likely? Is that on
With
the table?
Arab parties outside?
If the Arab parties were part of that first 61 to say, if the joint list said, you know what, we're willing to form a government, let's do it.
One thing I agree, one thing I disagree with our guest. It's not only a political issue or tactical issue. It's an ideological issue also. Because in this situation right now, the state of Israel is actually choosing not only the present, but for the future. And Israel Beitenu is very clear. We are not ready to sit with parties who refuse to send their boys to the army. We are not ready to sit with people who want to build prophecy universities like Mr. Peretz as the Ministry of Education. We are not ready to sit with Arab parties who are totally anti-Zionist. We want that the Likud, Kahol Lavan, sit together and form a government. We are even ready to make them together without us. Build a coalition, and then the other will join them or not. But the issue is for the state of Israel a clear and key interest to have such a government of unity with a Zionist basis for the state interest.
I have to say that the hypocrisy of the Israel Beitenu claims is amazing. We're talking about Lieberman. Lieberman sat in the government with those parties that were his best allies for the last 10 years, 15 years. He sat with them. He was going with them for the municipality of Jerusalem. They were his best allies, his best friends. Something went wrong with Lieberman. I don't know what's the case. It's not an issue of politics. It's not an issue of ideology. It's personal. Usually you say it's not business. It's not personal. It's business. No. It's not business. It's personal. Everyone know that he is in fight with Aryeh Deri, and even though they already the ultra-Orthodox parties already agreed to sign on the.
But then you also have at the very same time you have
the
Aryeh Deri who is saying, I'm not going to sit with Lapid, or I'm not going to sit with...
But they said that's what Netanyahu is trying to form. He says everyone in the Knesset is invited, from Meretz, the ultra-left party, to the most ultra-right party. The Arab party is a problem, and I said why. Again, we have to put it in context. It's a big problem.
Sure, but I think
if you are willing to sign, just a second, if you're willing to sign a sentence, I am for Israel as a Jewish and democratic country, you're in. All parties in the Knesset are willing to sign this, besides the Arab party.
But what I'm hearing is from every party so far is that I'm willing to compromise as long as you do what I want, which isn't a compromise.
Who did Netanyahu said I won't sit with? Who? Tell me.
He didn't say he wouldn't sit with you. He said I'll sit with anyone as long as you do what I want, and that's not a compromise. But that's what the 55-seat right-wing bloc is, isn't it?
55-seat bloc means I am not cooperating with people who wants to rule out and to fringe out other parties, and you don't break, and you don't take your strongest power in the negotiation. You don't throw it out the window. The right wing of the right wing is united behind Netanyahu. Netanyahu will do the most foolish thing to give up.
First of all, Mr. Simcha, forget that Netanyahu was keen to bring even Otzma Yehudit, which is a Kahanist party, inside the right-wing bloc, which is not Zionist, and I believe that you agree with me that they are not sharing the same Zionist right-wing values like Jabotinsky or Menachem Begin, but he was ready to bring them in this coalition.
I'm not sure I'm agreeing with you.
Don't be agree, but you have to just, if you are not agree, so get back to the books of Jabotinsky, and you will see that
they might not abide to Jabotinsky interpretation of Zionism. That I can agree.
You know, I want to get back to the now situation. Things are changing. It's true that Lieberman was part of government with the Haredi party. It's true. But something has changed from their side. They are now trying to impose more and more a Haredi and ultra-Orthodox situation in the Israeli society, which we are refusing it categorically. Now, it's a political game, of course, but it's a political issue. which is very important. So you say, we have been there before, why not to continue? Because we changed, because they changed.
1 year ago,
why?
you gave Jerusalem to the ultra-Orthodox. Lieberman gave Jerusalem municipality to the...
Simcha, come on, no one is giving.
So
no one
year,
is giving.
everything changed in Israeli politics in the last year. Haven't you heard?
No one is
in
giving.
Israel, we started to be...
But what I want just to say, that I think that Mr. Mendelblit will be the key, because if there is indictment, if there is a legal process very serious against Mr. Netanyahu, so in the Likud party, they will find someone else to replace him. And then something will change categorically, and then maybe something will change, because this block of 55 people is today a total issue to prevent from the right side a coalition. And I think that Netanyahu really wants a third round of election. It is in his own interest.
Well, so let's play this out now. Let's say that GANTZ fails in his mandate because he can't break this 55 block. He can't get the 61 seats without Israel Beitenu and all of the left-wing parties, including the joint list. It goes to third mandate. Who can successfully complete the third mandate? Because if this 55-member block doesn't break, then we're left at a crossroads. We're left at a standstill here.
But we have another block that you just didn't count. We have a 33 block, because blue and white is not one party. People tend to forget it. Blue and white are three parties combined together to be a block, and this block might break. And I think it has better chances to break than the 55 block.
You can make the same argument that the Likud today is also a conglomerate of Kahlon's party and
it is.
No, it's not because
it is.
No, it's not, because Kahlon did not run as a separate party.
He didn't. And he also absorbed Rivlin's party.
Kahlon cannot leave the Likud without breaking the rules of the control party dissolution in the Knesset. But when you run together as a platform of three parties, every party can go out without punishments. There are rules like on that in the Knesset. Blue and white is a conglomerate of three parties that can break out easily, legally. The Likud, there is one Knesset member from Kahlon that can go out of there, but she will never do it. But the others are parts of the Likud, and they cannot go out. They cannot go out without third of the Likud leaving out. It's not like the blue and white that every part, like it happened in the ultra-right-wing party, that they break out without just announced in the Knesset, we broke out, and we have three here and two here, and one. So it can happen.
Again, I mean, we don't know what will be the next day. We don't know, you don't know either. But I don't think that Kachol Lavan will split. I don't think that there will be such a change. Maybe if some people hope it, but I think it's a big mistake to think about. I think that President Rivlin, again, like you ask, will find someone. And how many people to... I'm not going to tell you who, because... I'm not going to tell you...
go back to Netanyahu.
I think...
Well, even if it does go back to Netanyahu then, so assuming it goes back to Netanyahu for the third mandate...
He won't go back. He won't get back to Netanyahu.
But even if it did, that's my point, is that with Israel Beitenu sitting on the fence, if they're not going to make a decision, and none of these other parties are willing to compromise...
Israel Beitenu is not a joker. It's a serious party. And this party has a clear agenda. The Likud maybe has forgot his agenda. Yamina also split already in three parties. So all these parties, came to the election to have mandates. Now they are looking for something else. I believe that at the end of the day, the state interest is to have a large unity government with Kachol Lavan Likud together, at least. If some other parties could join, fine. But at least the two big parties are able to find.
Will Israel Beitenu pledge to form a government, even if it's not the one that they envisioned, if it means not going back to third elections?
No.
So guess who wants third election?
No. Not at all.
What about the Likud or other, some of these other parties? Do you really believe that they would do the same?
I say that the Likud already gave up two things that were very important to him.
as long as they
No,
as
as
long
long
their
as
bloc.
everything is as long as there
Of
is
course.
as long. But I'm saying it. What the Lieberman says, I'm not giving up. That's my.
But there's no difference between.
No,
There's
is.
no difference between the Likud saying
There
I
is,
will work
because
with you as long as you do what I want.
No,
and
there
it's the same
is.
thing as Lieberman saying I will work with you as long as you do what I want.
There is,
it's the same thing.
because in negotiations you have the opening statement and you have where you go during the negotiation, and it changes. The Likud already made a big change that you don't take into account. They went in and they said, Netanyahu will serve on, if there is a rotation, 2 years. If there is no rotation, 4 years. Netanyahu will stay until the end. Because of Rivlin's idea, Netanyahu already said, if there is an indictment can happen in a week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, or for a few months. I will go to a vacation and basically Gantz will get the keys immediately. That's a big thing to give up. And that wasn't the opening statement for the negotiation. It wasn't the opening statement during the election. What Lieberman says, what I said during the election, what I said after last election, that's what will happen or else. Okay, so that's kind of a game. What I hope will happen is the members from the back seats of Israel Beiteinu will do the calculation and they say, we can either leave Lieberman, 4 of 6 people from Israel Beiteinu, leave Lieberman and we'll get to be ministers, we'll get to be head of committees, we'll get things get done, and we're not going back to election, and who knows what will happen next election, or we stay with Lieberman, and the best we can hope is to be in the backseat of the opposition. And maybe they'll get to their senses.
Final comment.
Oh, I don't. I think that these gentlemen do not understand Israeli politics today. They are still 10 or 15 years backwards. It's such a reality. But that's a big mistake because Israel is changing. Things are changing here in Israel. And we're not going to continue to have such a government with Orthodox parties imposing their own views on Israel when there are so big challenges. But if these people think that things can remain like it is, fine. But they will find a big change and a big surprise in 1 month or 2.
Well, we're certainly going to find out in a month or two. Simcha Rotman, Olivier Rafovitz, thank you both so much for coming in.
Thank you.
That is all the time that we have today for Elections Arena. I'd like to thank, of course, our guests and, of course, all of you for tuning in. Remember to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and, of course, on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras. See you next time.